Hi everyone, welcome back to English Lab. I'm your host Jenny, and today we're going to begin something really special, a full and friendly guide to help you master your English listening skills, especially if you're preparing for the IELTS exam. Whether you are just starting to learn English or you've been studying for years, this series is for you. So grab a notebook, a cup of tea, and let's start this journey together. I promise, by the end, you'll not only understand how to practice listening for IELTS, but also how to improve your English naturally in your daily life. Let's start with something simple. Why is listening so important in learning English? You see, many people think that speaking is the most important skill. They think, if I can speak well, I'm fluent. But that's not completely true. Speaking is important, of course, but you can't speak well if you don't understand what others are saying to you. Listening is the foundation of communication. It's like the roots of a tree. Without strong roots, the tree cannot stand. When you improve your listening, you automatically improve your pronunciation, your vocabulary, and even your grammar. Because the more you hear English used correctly, the more your brain learns to copy and repeat those patterns naturally. Now, let's talk about IELTS. IELTS, as you probably know, stands for the International English Language Testing System. It's one of the most popular English exams in the world. It has 4 main parts: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Many students fear the listening part because it can feel fast and confusing. You might hear different accents: British, Australian, American, and sometimes even mixed. You might have to listen to people talking about different topics like travel, study, health, or work. And the tricky part is you can only listen once. That's right, no replay. So you have to be alert, focused, and calm. But don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to do that. In this video series, I'll teach you how to train your ear, how to catch details, how to guess meaning, and how to avoid common traps. You'll learn how to listen actively, not passively. Many learners make the mistake of just hearing English but not really listening to it. They watch movies, listen to songs or podcasts, but they don't think deeply about what they hear. Active listening means you listen with attention and curiosity. You try to understand not just the words, but also the tone, the emotion, and the idea behind the message. Let's begin with a simple truth. Your listening will not improve by luck. It improves through daily practice. You don't need expensive courses or native speakers around you all the time. You can create your own English environment at home. For example, start your morning by listening to English radio for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if you understand every word. The goal is to train your ear to the rhythm and sound of English. When you listen every day, your brain starts recognizing patterns automatically. You'll begin to predict what words might come next. That's how native speakers listen. They don't hear every word clearly, but their brain guesses the meaning quickly based on context and experience. So, let's talk about how you can build this habit step by step. Every day, choose one short English clip. It could be from YouTube, a podcast, or even an IELTS practice test. Listen to it once without stopping. Just let it play. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. Then listen again, but this time, try to focus on key words. What are the main ideas? What's the topic? Who is speaking? And what's the purpose? After that, listen one more time and write down the important phrases or expressions you hear. You can even pause the audio and repeat after the speaker. This is called shadowing. It's one of the most powerful ways to improve your listening and pronunciation together. When you shadow, you copy the speaker's tone, rhythm, and emotion. It's like becoming their echo. Over time, your English starts sounding more natural. Now, let's connect this to the IELTS exam. In the IELTS listening test, you'll have 4 sections. The first section is usually a conversation between 2 people in a daily situation, maybe booking a hotel, planning a trip, or asking for directions. The second is a monologue, one person speaking like a tour guide or a lecturer. The third section is a discussion among several people, often about education or research. And the last section is usually an academic lecture. The difficulty increases step by step. Many students struggle because they don't practice with this gradual challenge. They only do test papers again and again, without building the skill behind them. Listening practice is not about doing more tests. It's about learning how to listen in real life. So, here's what you can do. Make English listening part of your daily life. For example, listen to English while you're cooking, walking, or traveling. Choose topics that interest you. If you love technology, listen to tech podcasts. If you enjoy stories, listen to audiobooks. The more you enjoy the topic, the more you'll remember it. And don't be afraid to listen to the same recording many times. Each time, you'll notice new details, maybe a new word, a new pronunciation, or a new tone. That's how real learning happens, through repetition and curiosity. Let's talk a little about accents. Many IELTS learners panic when they hear an Australian or British accent. They say, "I can't understand them," but trust me, you can. All you need is exposure. Think of accents like flavors of the same language. The more you taste them, the more familiar they become. You don't need to understand every accent perfectly. You just need to get used to hearing different rhythms and pronunciations. Start by watching short videos from different English-speaking countries. Don't worry about difficult vocabulary, focus on how people pronounce words, where they pause, and how they connect sounds. In English, words often connect together, like going to becomes gonna, or wanted becomes wanna. These small things can make a big difference. Another common problem is concentration. Many students lose focus during listening. Their mind wanders after 1 minute. That's normal, especially if English isn't your first language. So here's a simple trick. Before you listen, take a deep breath and tell yourself, "I'm going to listen with full attention." Then, while listening, use your finger or pencil to follow the question numbers. This keeps your eyes and mind focused. If you miss one answer, don't panic. Move on. If you waste time worrying about one question, you'll miss the next 3. Remember, IELTS listening is not just about your English skill. It's about your focus, memory, and calmness under pressure. Now let's talk about note-taking. You don't have to write full sentences during listening. Just write keywords. For example, if you hear the museum opens at 9 and closes at 6, you can write open 9, close 6. That's enough to remind you later. Practice writing quickly and neatly. And always check spelling. Even one wrong letter can cost you a mark in IELTS. If you're unsure about plural forms like student or students, listen carefully for the final S. That tiny sound is often the difference between right and wrong. Let's talk about mindset. Many students say, "Listening is too hard for me." But that's not true. Listening is not hard. It's just unfamiliar. Your brain needs time to get used to the sounds. Think about how you learned your first language. You listened for years before you started speaking. Babies listen for thousands of hours before they say their first word. You can do the same with English. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and trust the process. Even 5 minutes of focused listening every day will help you grow faster than 3 hours of unfocused study once a week. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine sitting in your IELTS test room. You're wearing headphones. The examiner says, "Now turn to section 1." You feel calm, ready, and confident. The recording starts, and you understand it easily. You're not panicking. You know the tricks, you know the traps, and you enjoy the challenge. That feeling is possible, and that's what we're going to build together, step by step, in this full guide. We're going to talk about how to build strong daily listening habits that actually work, how to use simple tools and materials around you, and how to make listening fun and natural so you never feel bored or tired while learning. First, let's understand what a habit really is. A habit is something you do automatically without thinking too much about it, like brushing your teeth in the morning or checking your phone when you wake up. You don't need to motivate yourself every day to do those things. They just happen. And that's what we want for your English listening practice. We want it to become so natural that it feels like part of your daily life, not a heavy task or homework. The secret is consistency, not perfection. Even 10 minutes a day can change your English if you do it regularly. So, how can you build this habit? Let's break it down in a simple way. Start by connecting your English listening to something you already do every day. For example, if you drink coffee or tea in the morning, make that your English listening time. Play an English podcast or a short news clip while you enjoy your drink. If you travel to work or school, listen to something in English during your commute. You don't have to understand every single word, just let your ears get used to the sound. Over time, your brain starts picking up more meaning automatically. It's like watering a plant every day. At first, you don't see much growth, but suddenly, after a few weeks, you notice new leaves. Another tip is to create an English environment at home, even if you live in a non-English speaking country. You can do small things that make a big difference. For example, change the language of your phone or social media to English. When you scroll online, your brain will start recognizing more words naturally. Label things around your house like door, mirror, kitchen, or window. It may sound simple, but this helps your brain connect words with real objects. Then, when you hear those words in listening exercises, they feel familiar. Now, let's talk about what kind of materials you should use for daily listening practice. You don't always need academic IELTS recordings. In fact, too many of those can make learning stressful. Try a mix of materials. For example, on Mondays, you can listen to short news summaries like BBC Learning English or VOA Learning English. They use clear pronunciation and useful vocabulary. On Tuesdays, listen to something more casual like an English vlog or interview on YouTube. On Wednesdays, try an IELTS practice section. On Thursdays, listen to an audiobook or a story. And on Fridays, watch part of an English movie or a TV show. This variety keeps your brain active and helps you adapt to different accents, tones, and topics, just like in the real IELTS test. Now, let's talk about subtitles. Many learners ask me, "Jenney, should I use subtitles or not?" And my answer is yes, but smartly. Subtitles can help a lot, especially in the beginning. But don't depend on them too much. Here's how you can use them effectively. First, listen without subtitles. Just try to catch the main idea. Then, watch the same clip again with English subtitles. This time, notice the words you missed before. Pay attention to pronunciation and connected speech. Finally, watch one more time without subtitles to test your memory. This simple 3-step method helps you connect sounds with spelling and meaning. Over time, you'll find you need subtitles less and less. Let's do a small exercise together. Imagine you're watching a short English video about a man talking about his daily routine. The first time, you listen and catch only a few words like wake up, coffee, and office. That's fine. The second time, you use subtitles and see the full sentences like, I wake up at 7 and make a cup of coffee before I go to the office. Now your brain connects the sound I wake up with I wake up. The third time, you listen again without subtitles, and now you understand much more. That's how learning works. It's not magic, it's repetition with awareness. Another important thing to remember is that English listening isn't just about hearing sounds, it's about understanding meaning. Sometimes, you may know every word in a sentence, but still not understand what it means. That's because English often uses idioms and expressions that don't translate directly. For example, if someone says, let's call it a day, it doesn't mean they're calling someone. It means they're stopping work for now. The more you listen to real English, like podcasts, interviews, or TV shows, the more you'll understand these phrases naturally. So, when you practice listening, don't only focus on the words. Try to feel the situation and tone. Ask yourself, what's the speaker trying to say? Are they happy, sad, angry, excited? Understanding emotion helps you understand meaning faster. Now, let's connect this to IELTS again. In the IELTS listening test, many answers depend on your ability to understand details like numbers, dates, times, or names. For example, they might say, the train leaves at 6:15. If you're not used to hearing quarter past, you might miss that it means 6:15. So, you can practice listening to such small details by using English news or daily conversation recordings. Whenever you hear numbers or times, pause and repeat them aloud. For instance, 250, 9:30, or 21st of March. This will train your ears and tongue at the same time. Some students also struggle with spelling when writing answers in IELTS. Listening carefully helps with that too. For example, when someone spells their name in a recording, like, my name is Carter, Carter, practice writing it down correctly and quickly. You can find free name spelling exercises online. These small things add up and make a huge difference in your final score. Now, let's talk about motivation. Many learners start listening practice with great energy, but after a week or two, they lose focus. They say, Jenney, I tried, but I don't feel any progress. That's because progress in listening is invisible at first. You can't measure it easily like writing or grammar, but it's happening quietly in your brain. You're training your ears, your memory, and your focus every single time you listen. So, celebrate small wins. Maybe today you understood 5 words more than yesterday. That's a win. Maybe you recognized a new accent. That's progress. Don't wait for perfection. Appreciate improvement. Here's a little secret from my own experience teaching students for years. The learners who improve the fastest are not always the smartest. They're the most consistent. They make English part of their lifestyle. They listen while doing other things. They don't study only for the exam. They study to enjoy the language. They fall in love with learning. That's what I want for you too. Don't make listening a punishment, make it a reward. When you finish your work or study for the day, relax with your favorite English show or music. That way, your brain connects English with positive feelings. Another powerful technique is micro-listening. That means focusing on small parts of audio, maybe just 10 or 15 seconds long, and studying them deeply. Listen to the same short part again and again until you catch every single word. Write it down, compare it with a transcript if available, and repeat it aloud. This method improves your attention to detail, which is super helpful for IELTS. Even native speakers sometimes do this when learning another language. Now, let's talk about using music. Some teachers say you shouldn't use songs to learn English, but I disagree. Songs can be great for listening practice if you use them correctly. Music helps you remember rhythm and pronunciation. For example, when you listen to English songs, read the lyrics at the same time. Notice how words are connected, how some sounds disappear, and how stress works in sentences. You'll start to feel the music of English, and that will make your speech sound smoother too. Just make sure to choose songs with clear lyrics, not too fast or full of slang at the beginning. Let's also talk about shadowing again, because it's one of the most powerful tools for both listening and speaking. Choose a short clip, maybe a TED Talk or a news video, and listen to one sentence at a time. Then repeat immediately after the speaker, matching their tone and speed as closely as you can. Don't worry if you sound funny at first. That's part of the process. Record yourself and compare your voice with the original. You'll quickly notice which sounds you're missing. This helps your listening and pronunciation improve together like magic. Now, let's think about how to organize your week for maximum results. You can make a simple schedule like this. Monday for short news clips, Tuesday for IELTS practice, Wednesday for English stories, Thursday for podcasts or interviews, Friday for movies or shows, and Saturday or Sunday for review. During review day, listen again to something you practiced earlier in the week. Notice how much more you understand the second time. That feeling of progress will keep you motivated. Another thing that really helps is setting small goals. For example, this week I'll focus on understanding numbers, or this week I'll learn 10 new expressions from listening. When your goals are clear, your brain focuses better. You can even keep a listening journal. Write down what you listened to, what new words or phrases you learned, and what you found difficult. After a few weeks, look back and you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Before we finish this part, I want to remind you of something very important. Be patient and kind to yourself. Everyone learns at a different speed. Some people understand accents quickly, others take time. Some people need to listen 3 times, others 5 times. That's okay. Don't compare yourself with others. Compare yourself with your past self. If today you're a little better than yesterday, you're winning. Listening is not about perfection. It's about connection. You're training your brain to understand another culture, another way of thinking, another rhythm of life. That's something amazing. So, to summarize this part in simple words, make listening a daily habit. Use a mix of materials. Use subtitles smartly. Repeat often. Focus on meaning and enjoy the process. Remember, every minute you spend listening brings you closer to fluency. You're not just preparing for IELTS. You're building a skill that will help you for life. We're going to go deeper into the actual IELTS listening test. how it works, what types of questions you'll face, and how to handle each one with confidence. So grab your notebook, because this part is full of practical tips that can really make a difference in your score. Let's start with the basics. The IELTS listening test has 4 sections, and each section becomes a little harder than the one before. You'll hear a variety of accents, usually British, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, and sometimes American. The recording is played only once, and the total test time is about 30 minutes, plus 10 extra minutes at the end if you're taking the paper-based test to transfer your answers. There are 40 questions in total, and each correct answer gives you 1 mark. Your total marks are then converted into a band score from 1 to 9. Now, before we go into each question type, remember this golden rule. IELTS listening is not a memory test, it's a skill test. You don't need to memorize vocabulary lists or guess randomly. The test is designed to check if you can understand real English situations, people making plans, students discussing projects, professors giving lectures, and so on. So, think of it as real-life listening, not just an exam. Okay, let's talk about section 1 first. This section usually has a conversation between 2 people in a daily situation. For example, it could be someone booking a hotel room, reserving a table at a restaurant, or asking about travel information. The questions in this part are often form-filling, short answer, or no completion. The vocabulary is simple, but the challenge is to catch small details like numbers, dates, names, and spellings. Here's a useful tip. Before the audio starts, you'll have about 30 seconds to look at the questions. Use that time wisely. Don't sit quietly. Quickly scan the questions and underline keywords, for example, phone number, address, time, or price. This helps your brain stay alert for those specific words. Then, as you listen, write the answers directly in short form. If you hear a number, write it down fast. If you hear something being spelled, listen carefully letter by letter. For instance, if the speaker says, "That's KTR," you need to be ready to catch every letter. Practicing this type of listening daily will make it much easier during the real test. Now, let's move to section 2. This part is usually a monologue, one person speaking alone, such as a tour guide giving information, a manager explaining rules, or someone talking about a local event. There are no other speakers, so it's easier to follow, but you need to pay attention to structure. Often, the speaker will give information in order, like first, second, next, finally. These words help you predict what comes next. If you hear, "Now let's move on to," that means a new part of the talk is starting, and maybe a new question set. For section 2, the question types can include map labeling, table completion, or multiple choice. Let's talk about map labeling because many students find it tricky. You'll see a simple map, like a campus, museum, or park, and you'll need to identify locations as you listen. The key here is to pay attention to direction words like next to, opposite, across from, on the left, behind, or in front of. When you practice, train yourself to follow these direction phrases quickly in your mind. You can even draw little arrows as you listen to help you visualize movement. Now, let's move to section 3. This one usually has a conversation among 3 or 4 people, often students and a tutor discussing an assignment or project. This part is a bit harder because there are more speakers and they may interrupt each other or change topics suddenly. The question types here can include multiple choice, matching, or sentence completion. The best way to handle this section is to identify who is speaking and what their opinions are. Often, The test asks you to match a person with their view. So listen for opinion phrases like I think, I believe, I agree, or I'm not sure. These signal that someone is expressing a personal view, and that's often the answer you need. A lot of students get confused in this part because they lose track of who is talking. To fix that, train your ear to recognize voices. In the test, the voices are different in gender and tone, maybe 2 women and 1 man, for example. In your practice, always take a few seconds to notice the voices at the start. You can even note M for male and F for female next to the question numbers, so your brain stays organized during the conversation. Then we reach section 4. This is usually a university lecture or academic talk. It's just one speaker, but the vocabulary can be more formal and the information comes quickly. There are no pauses for questions or conversations. Many students find this section hardest because they try to write too much or get lost when they don't understand a word. The best strategy here is to focus on the main ideas and signal words. For example, when the speaker says there are 3 main reasons, get ready for a list. When you hear, however, on the other hand, or in contrast, that means the idea is changing direction, so a new question may come. Practicing with academic podcasts or TED Talks helps you get used to this kind of speech. Now, let's talk about question types more specifically and how to deal with each one smartly. The first common type is multiple choice. Here, you'll hear a question with 3 possible answers, A, B, or C. The trap is that all 3 may sound correct. The test makers do this on purpose to check your attention. The speaker will often mention all 3 options, but only confirm one. For example, they might say, I thought of going to London, but it was too expensive, so I went to Manchester instead. The wrong answers are mentioned first, so don't choose too early. Wait until the speaker finishes the full idea before deciding. Next, we have form, note, or table completion questions. Here, you need to fill in missing words, often with a word limit like no more than 2 words and/or a number. Always read that instruction carefully. If you write 3 words when it says 2, your answer is automatically wrong, even if it's correct in meaning. Also, make sure spelling is perfect. IELTS is strict about that. When you practice, make it a habit to double-check spelling of common words like accommodation, restaurant, environment, and university. Another type is matching questions. For example, you might have to match people to opinions or events to places. To answer these, you need to listen for synonyms. The speaker might not use the same words as the question. For instance, if the question says disagree, the speaker might say, I don't think so, or I'm not sure that's right. So, training your ear to recognize meaning instead of just exact words is key. That's why it's so helpful to listen to varied English content daily. Your brain learns to understand ideas, not just vocabulary. Now, let's discuss map and diagram labeling. This type checks your ability to follow directions and understand spatial language. It's not just about listening, it's about visualizing. Practice by drawing maps yourself when you listen to English instructions. For example, listen to a YouTube video where someone gives directions and try to sketch the route. This kind of practice trains your listening memory and concentration at the same time. There's also sentence completion and short answer questions, where you have to write 1 or 2 words. These require attention to detail. The best way to prepare is by practicing listening to short factual information, things like numbers, addresses, and statistics. You can find simple clips online for this. And always write answers clearly in capital letters if you're not confident about handwriting. It's allowed in IELTS and helps prevent marking mistakes. Now, one of the most powerful strategies for the whole IELTS listening test is prediction. Before each section starts, you get time to look at the questions. Don't waste that time. Try to predict what type of information you'll hear. For example, if the question says the price of the ticket is underscore, 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 you know you're listening for a number. If it says the reason for delay is underscore, 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 you know it's probably a cause, maybe bad weather or traffic. When your brain knows what to expect, it becomes like a radar, focused and alert. Let's talk about another important skill, synonyms. IELTS loves to use synonyms. The question might say job, but the audio says occupation. The question might say children, but the recording says kids. You'll miss the answer if you only listen for exact words. So when you study, always practice matching similar meanings. You can use a notebook where you write synonyms you hear during listening practice. Over time, this builds your vocabulary map naturally. Now, let's discuss something many students forget, spelling and grammar in your answers. Even though this is a listening test, grammar still matters. For example, if the correct answer is students, but you write student, it's wrong. If the question needs a noun and you write a verb, it's wrong. So, read the sentence around the blank carefully and make sure your answer fits grammatically. For instance, if the sentence says, the museum is located underscore, 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 underscore the river, your answer should be a preposition like near or beside, not a noun. This small attention to detail can save marks. Let's also talk about focus and concentration during the test. Because you only hear the recording once, you must stay alert the whole time. If you lose focus even for 5 seconds, you might miss an answer. The best way to train your focus is through regular practice in real time. Don't pause or rewind when you practice. Train your brain to stay calm and move on if you miss something. You can always guess logically later based on grammar or context. Remember, sometimes one small miss doesn't affect your final score much, but panic can cause bigger mistakes. Also, remember to transfer answers carefully. If you're taking the paper-based test, use your extra 10 minutes wisely. Check spelling, make sure answers are in the correct boxes, and don't leave blanks. If you're taking the computer-based test, you don't get transfer time, but you have a little pause between sections to check quickly. Always double-check numbers and names. Those are the most common error areas. Now, here's a bonus tip that few teachers mention. Use tone and stress to find answers. In English, important words are usually stressed more strongly. For example, the meeting will be on Friday, not Thursday. The stressed words tell you the key information. If you train your ear to notice stress patterns, you'll understand faster and catch key points easily. Finally, remember this. IELTS listening is not just about practice. It's about strategy, confidence, and calmness. The best listeners are the calmest ones. When you're relaxed, your brain processes sound faster. So before the test, take a deep breath, smile, and tell yourself, I've practiced for this, I can do it. You've already built your listening habit, you know the question types, and you know how to stay focused. All you need now is to trust yourself. You've learned a lot about how to build habits, how to train your ear, and how to handle the different question types in the IELTS listening test. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm really proud of how far you've come. But here's something I want you to know. Learning English listening is not just about passing an exam. It's about understanding people, stories, and the world around you. It's about feeling confident when you talk to someone, watch a movie, or travel to another country. So in this part, we'll go beyond the test and talk about how to improve your real-life English listening skills. Let's start with something most people love, movies and TV shows. Watching movies in English is one of the most enjoyable ways to improve your listening, but only if you use them correctly. Many learners make the mistake of watching movies like they watch in their native language. They just relax, turn on subtitles, and don't pay much attention. That's okay for fun, but if you want to improve your listening, you have to be more active. Here's how you can do it the right way. Start with shows or movies that have clear dialogue. If you're a beginner or intermediate learner, don't start with something too fast or full of slang like a crime thriller or comedy. Instead, choose something slower like documentaries, dramas, or educational shows. Even cartoons like Peppa Pig or Finding Nemo can be great practice because the speech is clear and simple. Once you're comfortable, you can move on to more complex ones. Here's a step-by-step method that really works. Watch the movie in English with English subtitles the first time. Don't use your native language subtitles. That's like having a crutch you don't need. The goal is to connect what you hear with what you see. Try to notice how the words sound compared to their spelling. English pronunciation can be tricky. For example, though, through, and thought all look similar but sound completely different. Watching with English subtitles helps you train your eyes and ears at the same time. Then, when you watch the same movie again, maybe the next day, turn off the subtitles. This time, focus only on listening. You'll be surprised how much more you understand. The reason is simple. Your brain has already built a memory of the sounds and meanings. Now you're reinforcing it naturally. Don't worry if you still miss some words, that's normal. Even native speakers sometimes miss words when watching movies with strong accents or background noise. The key is to understand the meaning, not every single word. Now, let's talk about something that scares many learners: different accents. English is spoken in so many countries, and every place has its own style, rhythm, and pronunciation. You might hear British people say schedule as schedule, and Americans say it as schedule. Australians might say mate instead of friend. At first, this can be confusing, but don't worry. You don't have to understand every accent perfectly. You just need to get used to them. One fun way to do that is to listen to short videos from different English-speaking countries. For example, one day watch a BBC News clip for the British accent, another day watch an Australian travel vlog, and another day listen to an American podcast. This variety helps your ears adapt to the real world, where English doesn't sound the same everywhere. It's like training your ears to be flexible. After a few weeks, you'll notice that accents no longer scare you. They'll sound interesting instead. Here's a small exercise you can do. Find the same short topic, for example, a news story or a movie review, in 3 accents: British, American, and Australian. Listen to each and compare how they sound. Focus on rhythm, stress, and common pronunciation differences. You'll learn faster than you expect. This kind of practice also prepares you perfectly for IELTS because the test uses a mix of accents. Now, let's talk about understanding fast speech, which is one of the hardest parts of listening. Many learners say, "Jenny, I can understand English when people speak slowly, but when they speak fast, I lose everything. I hear this all the time. The good news is you can fix it. The problem isn't your intelligence, it's your listening speed. You're still processing each word one by one in your head, probably translating it into your language. That takes time. The secret is to stop translating and start thinking in English. So how do you do that? It's not magic, but it's a skill that grows with practice. First, you have to accept that you don't need to understand 100% of what you hear. Even native speakers don't always understand every word. They focus on the main ideas. Second, listen more often without trying to translate. For example, when you listen to a podcast, don't think, what does that word mean in my language? Instead, ask, what is the person trying to say? Focus on the meaning, the emotion, and the situation. Your brain will start connecting ideas directly in English. Another trick is to use shadowing again, repeating after the speaker instantly. When you shadow fast speech, your tongue and brain learn to move at the same speed as natural English. It's like running with a faster partner. At first, it's hard, but soon you keep up. Start with slow material and gradually increase speed. You can even use playback speed tools on YouTube. Listen at 0.75x for understanding, then try 1x or even 1.25x for challenge. Over time, your ears and brain adapt beautifully. Now, let's talk about music, because many of you love learning with songs. Music can be a powerful listening tool if you choose wisely. Pick songs where the lyrics are clear and not too fast. For example, classic pop songs, acoustic covers, or even Disney songs are perfect. Listen once for enjoyment, then again while reading the lyrics. Try to catch pronunciation patterns, like how wanna becomes wanna, or going to becomes gonna. Then sing along. I know it sounds funny, but singing along helps your mouth remember rhythm and tone naturally. Plus, it's fun, and when learning is fun, you remember more. Another area that many learners forget to practice is real conversation listening. Movies and tests are helpful, but real people speak differently. They use fillers, pauses, and informal expressions like, you know, I mean, or like. At first, these can sound confusing because they don't carry real meaning, but they're part of natural speech. You can train yourself to understand real conversations by listening to English interviews, vlogs, or podcasts that use everyday speech. Try to notice how speakers use these filler words and how they change tone depending on emotion. That's how real communication happens. You can also practice this skill with YouTube channels or podcasts that focus on daily life. For example, English conversations in cafes, travel stories, or interviews with people about their jobs. When you listen, don't worry about writing answers. Just focus on following the conversation. You can even close your eyes and imagine you're sitting there with them. That kind of mental picture helps your brain process the sounds more deeply. Now, let's go deeper into the idea of thinking in English, because this is where true fluency starts. Many learners understand English well, but still think in their own language before they speak or respond. That slows down listening and speaking. The good news is you can train your brain to think in English gradually. Here's how. Start by describing your day in English in your mind. When you wake up, think, I'm brushing my teeth, or I'm making breakfast. Don't translate. Just say it naturally in English in your thoughts. When you see something new, name it in English. When you have feelings, describe them in English, like, I feel tired, or that's interesting. Over time, this habit rewires your brain to stay in English mode, which makes listening much faster and smoother. You can also try what I call the English bubble exercise. For 10 or 15 minutes each day, imagine that you live in an English-only world. During that time, everything you hear, see, or say, you process in English. No translation allowed. Even if you don't know a word, try to explain it in English using simple terms. For example, if you forget the word refrigerator, you can say, the thing that keeps food cold. This habit builds strong listening and thinking connections. You'll start understanding context more naturally, just like native speakers do. Now, let's talk about listening to emotion and tone, because understanding words is only half the job. Real communication also includes feelings, attitude, and emphasis. In English, tone can completely change meaning. For example, if someone says really with a rising tone, it means surprise or curiosity. But if they say really with a flat or falling tone, it might mean disbelief or even boredom. You can practice recognizing emotions by listening to dialogues or scenes in movies without looking at the screen. Just close your eyes and guess how the speaker feels based on their voice. Are they happy, angry, excited, or sad? This improves not just your listening, but also your emotional intelligence in English conversations. Also, don't be afraid of silence or pauses in conversations. In many English-speaking cultures, small pauses are natural. People use them to think. If someone pauses while talking to you, don't panic or jump in too quickly. Listen calmly, wait for your turn, and you'll notice you understand much more. This patience also helps in the IELTS test, especially in speaking and listening sections where focus is everything. Another useful habit is listening to short news stories or daily summaries. For example, BBC Learning English, VOA Learning English, or podcasts like 6-Minute English. These are perfect for improving comprehension of real-life topics, science, travel, culture, and more in a clear and manageable way. The more you expose yourself to natural English every day, the less effort it takes to understand it. Now, let's talk about one last but very powerful point: confidence. Many learners actually understand more English than they think. The problem isn't listening, it's fear. When you're nervous, your brain blocks information. You start thinking, I won't understand, and that becomes true. But when you relax, your ears open up and you understand much more. So, before you start listening practice or before your IELTS test, take a deep breath, smile, and tell yourself, I can do this. That small positive thought can change everything. So, to wrap up this part, remember these key ideas. Watch English movies and shows with purpose, not just for fun. Listen to different accents regularly. Train yourself to think in English. Focus on meaning, not perfection, and practice listening to real people, not just test recordings. And most importantly, enjoy the process. When listening becomes something you love, improvement happens naturally. It's time to go a little deeper to learn the real exam secrets that can take you from a good listener to an excellent one. In this part, we'll talk about advanced IELTS listening strategies, like how to predict answers before you hear them, how to avoid tricky traps that the test loves to use, and how to link listening with speaking so that your overall fluency grows faster than ever. Let's start with one of the most powerful listening techniques, prediction. Many students think listening is just about hearing the audio carefully, but that's only half the story. The other half happens before the audio even starts. In IELTS listening, you always get a few seconds to read the questions before each section. Those seconds are gold. Use them wisely. Instead of just staring at the paper, start predicting what you'll hear. For example, if the question says, "The price of the ticket is underscore, 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 underscore," you already know you're listening for a number, most likely money, maybe £10, $5, or something similar. If the question says, "The meeting will be held in the underscore, 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 underscore," you know you're listening for a place like library, conference room, or hall. By doing this, you're training your brain to expect certain kinds of information, numbers, names, dates, places, even before the recording begins. It's like giving your brain a map, so it doesn't get lost. When the answer comes, your attention is ready to catch it. This prediction skill becomes automatic with practice, and it saves you from missing answers because you are not mentally prepared. Now, let's talk about something every test taker fears: traps. The IELTS listening test is famous for its tricky phrasing. Sometimes the speaker gives one answer, then changes it later. For example, they might say, "The lecture will start at 10 a.m. Oh, wait, it was moved to 10:30. If you wrote the first time you heard 10 a.m., that's a trap. The real answer is 10:30. This happens all the time. So remember, don't write the answer until you're sure the speaker has finished the sentence or confirmed it. The test loves to check whether you're listening carefully, not just catching random words. Another common trap is synonyms. The test rarely uses the exact same word from the question. For example, the question might say reason for delay, but in the recording, the speaker might say because the flight was postponed. Delay and postponed mean the same thing, but if you only look for the word delay, you'll miss it. That's why understanding meaning is more important than matching words. The IELTS test checks your ability to understand paraphrasing, how the same idea can be expressed in different ways. Here's a fun mini exercise you can do every day to train this skill. Take a short listening clip, maybe 30 seconds from a podcast, and write down the key ideas. Then, rewrite those ideas using your own words. This helps you practice hearing meaning, not just sound. When you do this often, traps become easier to spot because you start listening for ideas instead of vocabulary. Now, another trap you should be aware of is similar sounding words. For example, 15 and 50, 14 and 40, 70 and 17. In IELTS, numbers like these are often used to test your attention. The best way to handle this is to focus on intonation, the rise and fall of the voice. When English speakers say 15, the stress falls on the second part, 15, while in 50, the stress falls on the first part, 50. By practicing stress patterns, you can hear the difference more clearly. You can also write small marks or symbols beside the question to remind yourself. For example, teen equals long sound, tight equals short sound. These little reminders can save you marks. Now, let's talk about context, one of the biggest keys to understanding the test. IELTS listening is designed like a real-life conversation or situation. Each section has a story or purpose. For example, in Section 1, you often hear a telephone conversation, maybe someone booking a hotel or ordering tickets. Section 2 might be a short speech about a place or service. Section 3 is usually an academic discussion, and Section 4 is a lecture. If you understand the context, you can predict the kind of vocabulary that will appear. For example, if the context is a museum tour, you might hear words like exhibition, display, painting, gallery. Knowing context helps your brain stay focused on what makes sense instead of getting lost in details. You can practice this by listening to random audio clips and guessing the situation before it's clear. For example, if you hear, "Would you like to pay by card or cash?" you can instantly guess it's a shopping or payment situation. This kind of contextual guessing is a powerful listening skill for both IELTS and real life. Now, let's talk about note-taking. Many students ask, should I write everything I hear? No, that's not possible, and it's not the goal. The key is to listen smartly. Write only key information, numbers, dates, names, or important nouns. Don't try to copy full sentences. If you hear the conference will be held next Monday at the City Hall, you can just write the Mon City Hall. Short, simple notes that you can understand later. When you practice this skill, your brain becomes faster at catching the main idea while ignoring unnecessary words. Another advanced trick is spotting signpost words. In IELTS recordings, speakers often use small words that signal what's coming next, like first, however, on the other hand, finally, in conclusion. These are like road signs that tell you when a new idea or answer might appear. If you train your ears to notice these words, you'll always know when to pay extra attention. For example, if the speaker says, "At first we planned to hold the event outdoors, but due to weather," that "but" tells you a change is coming, maybe the real answer after it. Always listen for those small signals. Now, let's connect listening with speaking because they are actually two sides of the same coin. Many learners separate them. They practice listening with recordings and speaking with friends, but in real life, they happen together. When you listen carefully, your speaking improves automatically because you start to pick up pronunciation, rhythm, and natural expressions. And when you speak, you practice the same sound patterns you hear. So, how can you combine them? Here's one powerful exercise. After you listen to something, maybe a short podcast or part of a lecture, try to summarize it aloud in your own words. Don't worry about perfection. Just explain the main idea as if you're telling a friend. This helps your brain connect comprehension with expression. Another version is to use shadowing with response. Instead of only repeating, try reacting to what you hear. For example, if the speaker says, "The biggest problem with online learning is lack of interaction," you can respond, "Yeah, that's true. It can feel lonely sometimes." This makes your listening active and conversational, just like real communication. Also, when you're practicing IELTS listening, try to notice how native speakers link words together. In fast speech, "did you" becomes "did ya." "What are you doing" becomes "what ya doing." These are called connected sounds, and they're everywhere in natural English. When you learn to recognize them, you'll stop feeling lost when people speak quickly. You can practice this by listening to dialogues and repeating them out loud, paying attention to how the words join. It's not just pronunciation, it's rhythm and music. English is a rhythm-based language, and when you catch that rhythm, listening feels easier. Now, let's talk about dealing with distractions during listening. Sometimes you lose focus. Maybe you start thinking about something else or get nervous because you missed one question. The secret is, don't panic. If you miss an answer, forget it and move on. If you stay stuck on it, you'll miss the next one too. Keep listening and refocus quickly. Remember, IELTS doesn't punish you for missing one answer. One mark won't ruin your score, but losing focus can cost you many. So, always keep your attention moving forward. Here's a tip I give to my students before every test. Prepare your mind like an athlete before a race. Take a few deep breaths before the test starts. Stretch your shoulders and smile. Yes, smile. It actually relaxes your brain and helps you listen better. Confidence makes a big difference in comprehension. Let's also talk about time management in listening. You have to read questions, listen, and write answers almost at the same time. That can feel overwhelming. So practice multitasking. Listen to short audios and try writing down key points while listening. Start slow, then increase difficulty. Over time, your brain will learn to process information more smoothly. It's like training a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets. Another advanced method to sharpen your skills is backward listening. This is a powerful but little-known technique. Take a short audio clip, maybe 20 seconds, and play the last few seconds first. Try to write down what you hear. Then move backward a little more. This forces your brain to focus on details and pronunciation patterns. It's especially useful for identifying missed sounds or weak listening spots. Do it once or twice a week, and you'll notice improvement fast. Also, don't forget about spelling and grammar in your answers. Even if you hear the correct answer, you can lose marks if you spell it wrong. So, when you practice, pay attention to common tricky spellings like accommodation, environment, necessary, definitely. Make a list of words you often misspell and review them regularly. In IELTS, spelling mistakes are not forgiven. One letter can cost you a mark. Now, let's talk about something that separates top scorers from average ones: understanding logic. IELTS listening isn't just about facts. It's about following the logic of the speaker. Ask yourself questions while you listen. Who is speaking? What is their purpose? Are they giving information, expressing opinion, or describing a process? For example, in an academic lecture, you might hear a professor explaining a cause and effect relationship. Because of climate change, rainfall patterns are shifting. If you notice the logical connection, you'll always understand the message, even if you miss a few words. You can practice this with short academic talks like TED-Ed videos or BBC educational programs. Listen and ask, what's the main idea? What's the evidence? What conclusion did they reach? This not only helps with listening, but also prepares you for IELTS writing and speaking because your brain learns to organize ideas logically. Finally, let's end this part with one of my favorite tips: listening with curiosity. Don't listen just to complete a task. Listen because you truly want to understand something new. When you care about the topic, your brain remembers better. If you love travel, listen to travel podcasts. If you love science, listen to science stories. If you love cooking, listen to English recipes or food reviews. When listening becomes something you want to do, not something you have to do, your progress becomes unstoppable. So, to summarize this part in simple words, learn to predict what you'll hear. Listen for meaning, not words. Stay calm under pressure. Focus on signpost words. Practice connected sounds. And turn listening into a real-life habit. Connect it with your speaking by summarizing and shadowing actively. And most importantly, keep your curiosity alive, because that's what turns learning into a lifelong skill. We're going to put everything together. I'll show you exactly how to build your own daily English listening routine, how to prepare your mind and body before the IELTS test, and how to stay motivated for the long run so that English becomes not just something you study, but something you live. Let's start with your daily routine because success doesn't come from doing one big thing once. It comes from doing small things every day. So, how can you build a listening routine that actually works? The key is consistency over time, not how long you study, but how regularly you practice. Even 20 or 30 minutes a day can make a huge difference if you do it right. Let me walk you through a simple structure you can follow. In the morning, when your mind is fresh, do a short active listening session. Choose a short audio, maybe an IELTS practice recording, a short podcast, or a piece of news. Listen carefully once, without subtitles. Then listen again while following a transcript or subtitles if available. Finally, listen a third time without looking and try to summarize what you understood. This routine, even if it's only 15 minutes, wakes up your brain and trains your ear to focus. It's like a morning workout, but for your English. In the afternoon or evening, do passive listening. This means listening without pressure. You can play an English YouTube video, a podcast, or even English music while doing something else, cooking, walking, or cleaning your room. Don't try to understand every word. Just let your ears get used to the sound of English. This kind of exposure builds comfort and rhythm without effort. The more your brain hears natural English, the more it becomes automatic. Once or twice a week, do a mock listening test. Use real IELTS practice materials. Sit down in a quiet place, play the recording once, and follow the real test rules. Don't pause or replay. After you finish, check your answers and write down the words or types of questions you missed. Then listen again and understand why you missed them. Was it a spelling mistake? Did you get trapped by similar words? Did you miss a number? These reviews are gold because they show you exactly where to improve. Now, here's something important. When you study listening, balance active and passive learning. Active learning is when you focus deeply, take notes, repeat, and analyze. Passive learning is when you just listen casually. Too much active study can burn you out, and too much passive listening can make you lazy. The magic is in the balance. Maybe 30 minutes of active listening plus 1 or 2 hours of light listening in the background. That's enough to grow steadily without stress. You can also make listening part of your daily life. For example, change your phone language to English. Listen to English voice assistants like Siri or Alexa. Watch English YouTubers instead of your local ones. Follow English-speaking creators on social media. Every time you expose your brain to English sounds, you're building micro-habits that make a big difference. It's like planting tiny seeds every day. They grow before you even notice. Now, let's talk about your mindset before the IELTS test. Test day can be scary, even for confident learners. But remember, the test doesn't measure your worth. It only measures your skill in that moment. So, let's get your mind calm and focused. The day before the test, don't try to cram too much. You already know what you know. Instead, review lightly. Maybe listen to a few recordings to keep your ears warm, but don't push yourself hard. Get a good night's sleep. A tired brain doesn't listen well. Eat a healthy meal, something light, not heavy or greasy. And most importantly, believe in yourself. You've trained for this. On the morning of the test, do a short warm-up. Listen to something in English, maybe a 5-minute podcast or a song you like. This gets your brain into English mode before the test starts. Don't go in cold. Think of it like warming up your muscles before running. During the test, stay relaxed. Remember, if you miss one question, it's okay. Keep going. Focus on what's coming next, not what's gone. That's what good listeners do. They stay present. Here's another mindset secret. Control your emotions. Sometimes during the test, you might hear a difficult accent or miss a word, and your mind starts to panic. You think, "Oh no, I don't understand anything." But that's not true. It's just fear talking. Take a breath, refocus, and keep listening. Many times, the next sentence will help you guess the meaning. The test is not about being perfect. It's about staying steady. Confidence is half your score. Now, let's talk about how to keep improving even after the test. Because English is not just for IELTS, it's a life skill. Once you pass your test, don't stop listening. In fact, that's when real learning begins. Start exploring topics you love in English. If you're into technology, listen to tech news. If you love travel, listen to travel podcasts. If you love stories, listen to English audiobooks. The best kind of listening practice is the one you enjoy. When you're interested, your brain remembers everything more easily. You can also try learning through content variety. 1 week, focus on podcasts. The next week, watch documentaries. The next, listen to interviews. Each type of content teaches you something different. Podcasts help with conversational English. Documentaries improve your academic vocabulary, and interviews train your ear for natural tone and rhythm. Don't stick to one source forever. Mix it up and keep it fresh. Now let's discuss motivation, because this is where many learners struggle. At first, you feel excited, you buy books, download materials, make big plans. But after a few weeks, motivation fades. You feel tired or bored. That's normal. Everyone feels that. The key is not to wait for motivation. The key is to build habits. Habits don't depend on mood. When listening becomes part of your routine, you do it automatically, even when you're not feeling inspired. And soon, the results bring your motivation back. One powerful way to stay motivated is to track your progress. Keep a small journal or use your phone notes to write what you did each day. For example, listen to BBC podcast for 10 minutes, understood about 70%, or watched one YouTube video with English subtitles. When you look back after a month, you'll see how far you've come. That's an amazing feeling. Progress, even small, keeps you moving forward. Another secret to long-term motivation is celebrating small wins. Every time you understand a new word, or follow a fast conversation, or score higher in practice, celebrate it. Say to yourself, "Yes, I did it." Smile, clap, dance a little if you want, whatever makes you happy. The brain loves reward. When you celebrate success, even tiny ones, your brain gives you energy to keep going. Learning becomes joyful instead of stressful. You can also connect with other learners. Join online study groups, IELTS communities, or language exchange partners. When you talk about your journey with others, you feel supported and inspired. You realize you're not alone. Everyone struggles sometimes, and everyone improves at their own pace. Share tips, share experiences, share mistakes. It all helps. You can even teach others what you've learned. Teaching is one of the best ways to strengthen your own skills. When you explain something in English, you practice speaking, thinking, and listening at once. Let's also talk about something deeper, your relationship with English. Don't think of it as a subject you have to study. Think of it as a new way of seeing the world. English connects you with people, movies, books, music, and cultures from all around the globe. It gives you more freedom and more opportunities. So instead of saying, I have to study English, start saying, I get to learn English. That one small change in attitude makes everything lighter. It's not pressure anymore, it's possibility. Now, if you ever feel stuck, maybe your listening isn't improving or your scores are not going up, remember this. Progress is not always visible every day. Sometimes it feels like nothing is changing, but inside your brain, things are happening. You're building neural connections, sound memory, and comprehension patterns. It's like going to the gym. You don't see muscles grow every day, but after a few weeks, you look back and see big results. So trust the process. Keep showing up. The results will come. Here's one last idea I want to share. Make English emotional. When you connect learning with feelings, you remember more. For example, listen to songs that make you happy or emotional. Watch movies that inspire you. Follow English motivational speakers or storytellers who touch your heart. When English becomes part of your emotions, it stays with you forever. You won't forget what moves you. All right, my friends, let's bring it all together. You now have the full roadmap to mastering IELTS listening and improving your real-life English listening skills. You've learned how to start small, build habits, understand accents, think in English, predict answers, avoid traps, manage stress, and stay motivated. You've learned not just how to listen for tests, but how to listen for life. That's a beautiful skill. One that opens doors wherever you go. So, as we end this 6-part journey, I want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me, for learning with me, and for staying till the end. You've proved that you're serious about your dreams. Whether your goal is to study abroad, travel, or work internationally, remember, English is your bridge to the world, and listening is the first step across that bridge. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one small challenge. For the next 30 days, spend at least 15 minutes every single day listening to English. It could be a podcast, a YouTube video, or even my other lessons here on English Lab. No excuses, no breaks. Just 15 minutes daily. After 30 days, come back and tell me how you feel. I promise you'll notice a huge difference, not just in your listening, but in your confidence too. All right, that's the end of our IELTS English Listening Practice Full Guideline. I'm Jenney from English Lab, and I hope these sessions have inspired you to love English listening and believe in your power to grow. If you enjoyed this full series, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to English Lab for more lessons that make English easy, fun, and real. Remember, you can do this. Keep listening, keep believing, and keep growing. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.